Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this diamond in the rough beaded Kumihimo bracelet using diamond duos as well incorporated into it. And this is what it looks like. So this is the bracelet and that's the back. So on the back you just have the flat side of the diamond duos, but then this is what I would call the front of it. And then I've just finished off the ends with some ribbon ends and attached my clasp as well. So this length, the length of this bracelet is about 7 inches, and that's from my clasp as well. So obviously the length will depend on the clasp that you use, so you might add more, or if you have a smaller clasp you might not quite be as long, but that's why I like to use extender chains so it will still fit different sizes. But this is the braid, the bracelet, and then it looks a little something like this on the wrist. So it gives a really nice effect and quite different there, because you have the diamond duos, they're incorporated into the braid on each side, but then as I've added the braids together and added more into it, the diamond duos also create these diamonds within the pattern to get this kind of diamond in the rough effect. That's what it looks like. So if you want to learn how to make this bracelet, then stay tuned. So these are the materials that we're going to need. First of all, I have my round Kumihimo disc because we're making round braids for this one. And then I have my beads that I'm going to be using for the piece. Now I have some beads here that both Miyuki seed beads, but I have these ones at 8/0 size, and they're just matte black, both of them are here. The 8/0 ones are going to be used in the braid as I'm making the braid along with the diamond duos. And then these ones here are 11/0s. I'm going to use these after I've made the braids to add the embellishment and bring the two braids together. And again, then the diamond duos here, I have two different colours. So just a matte silver and a matte purple. You can obviously use whatever colour combinations you want to of all of it. And some of them are going to be incorporated into the braid and some of them are going to be added after we've made the braids. And then I also have my cord here. So this is a 0.4mm s-lon and I've just chosen a black colour because it goes with the beads that are obviously black, so it'll be a nice background colour in case any of the cord shows through. And then I've got my s-lon here, so this is the thread. We're going to use the thread after we made the braids to add on the embellishment and bring them together afterwards. And then I also just have my beading needle here to use with the thread to add on the embellishment and bring them together afterwards, the two braids. Then we need to finish off the bracelet, and for this I'm using some ribbon ends. These specific ones are 30mm wide ones, they're going to fit perfectly. And then obviously we can use them to then add whatever clasp we want to. I'm using a lotto claw clasp, extender chain, and then my jump rings. So let's get it all together and let's get started. So then the lengths of cord that we're going to need is 4 lengths of our s-lon here of about 1 meter each. And then what I've done is I've put the ends together, first of all, like this. And then I folded them over in half and put the ends together again so that I can find roughly where the middle is. So somewhere like that. And then I've just tied a regular overhand knot to keep hold of that. But then also I've then tied a piece of scrap wire around that so I can help pull this down through the disc. And I've then taken all my lengths of cord here and attached them onto my disc. So I'll put that piece of wire in the middle of the cords down through the hole in the centre of the disc here. And then I distributed the cords around the dots. So in this case I'm not using the numbers at all. I'm just using these dots as kind of referencing them, the midpoints. So I've just put one cord on each side of every dot all the way around the disc. So then what I need to do now is make a little section of braid here with just the cord before I start adding in any beads. So I'm going to start taking my top left cord here on the disc, bringing that over the middle and then down on the bottom of the disc, stay on the left side of the bottom pair. And then I'm going to take the right one from the bottom pair, bring it up over the top, and then stay on the right side up here. Then I'm going to turn my disc a quarter for the next pair, and then I'm going to do the same thing. So take the top left one, bring it down, stay on the left side, and then take the bottom right one, bring it up and stay on the right side. And again, turn your disc a quarter for the next pair here, and then continue like that. So it's just a regular basic 8-strand braid. So make about 1 to 2 centimeters of this braid before we then need to start adding in the beads. So I now started out my braid here, making that little section of the braid, just using the cord, and you can see that coming out right at the back. So you can see the braid starting to form. So now we're at the point where we need to start adding on the beads. So this is then how we want to set up the beads. Now I'm going to go through it, but I've also taken a picture of the setup and I'm going to put that picture on my website. There's going to be a link to that in the description box below, so you can go and have a look at that in a bit more detail, and there's also going to be a description on how the beads are set up in text form. So if you need to have a look at that, you can use that link. But then to go through them here, first one that I'm going to start with is the top left one on the disc, because that's the card that I'm due to take next to continue the braid. On here I have only 8 O's completely, and I have 40 of them in total here. And then on the top right one here, you can see this is where I have some diamond duos on, and you can also see there is a pattern to this. So the pattern is I start out with 1 8-0, so this is the beginning on this one, and then the actual pattern goes into 1 diamond duo, and then 3 8-0s, 1 diamond duo, 3 8-0s, and it continues like that all the way to the end. What I have is a total of 10 diamond duos on this one, and then I also finish off with 1 of the 8-0s there. And then go into the cord that's on the top right side of the disc here. Also, this only has 8-0s all the way, and this has 39 8-0s. And the bottom one on the right side here, again, is the exact same. That also just has 39 8-0s all the way. And then moving on to the bottom part of the disc here, the bottom right one also has 8-0s, and this one has 40 8-0s, just like the top left one did up there. And then as for the bottom left one here, this is the other cord where I have diamond duos on. And in this case you can see it's the same pattern, so we have diamond duo, 3 8-0s, diamond duo, 3 8-0s, but it starts out on this one with 3 8-0s and then goes into the pattern, diamond duo, 3 8-0s, diamond duo, and then in total I have 9 diamond duos on this one, and it also finishes off with the 3 8-0s. And then also, as for these cards with the diamond duos on, as you can see as well, the top right one, the first one that I went through, all the diamond duos on that are the same colour, so that's one of the colours that we're working with here. And then on the bottom left one, that's the other colour that we're working with, so all the same colour on those diamond duos as well. So just make sure you have your colours separated out, and also what I just want to mention is make sure the diamond duos are all facing in the same direction. As you can see here, because a diamond duo, you have one side is flat and the other has a bit of a kind of lift to it, so you want to make sure that all the diamond duos are facing in that same direction, so that lift is kind of pointing upwards. And then as for the left side of the disc here, the last 2 cords, the bottom one of those I have 39 8-0s, so same as over here, and also the top one of those 2 I also have 39. So you can say those 2 sides of the disc are the same. And then that's all the beads set up on all the cords here. And this is then the setup that you want to do if you work the same way as me. So if you start with the top left one, or if you start with the bottom right one, that's going to be the same principle as what I do, because I start with the top left one there. But starting with the top left one and the bottom right, that's the same result you're going to get. And in that case you want to set up the beads just like I have done here. But if you start with the top right one or the bottom left, they're also the same as each other. But if you start with either of them, you will need to set up the beads differently, otherwise you won't achieve the same look. And the way that is basically imagine that you then have a mirror in front of this disc here, and then you want to add your beads in that mirror image. So that means that the top 2 cords up here, not the cords obviously, but the positioning of the beads, that they swap place. So the diamond duo ones will be over on the other side, and then the one with only the 8-0s. And then also the bottom 2 would swap with each other. And then the side ones here, the top ones on each side would swap over the middle, and then the bottom ones on each side will swap over the middle. Obviously in this case that doesn't matter, because these 4, the 2 on each side, are the same anyway, but the principle of it, so you get that mirror image of the disc. And by doing that you'll achieve the same result, but if you work in the opposite way than I do here. So what we need to do now, once you've added all your beads on in the right way, then we need to start adding them into the braid. So to do that, we just want to continue making the braid in the same way that we did without adding beads in. But now, every time we move a cord, so I'll grab my top left one here, I also want to then release my very first bead that I run into, let that drop all the way down into the middle there, and then make sure that the bead goes underneath the cords in the middle. So if you have to, tuck it in with your finger if it doesn't fall in by itself, and then place your cord in the bottom. And same thing with the other one. We're releasing the bottom right cord, and every time you're moving a cord you release one bead on that cord and let it drop down into the middle and place it back, and then turn your disc for the next pair. And that's basically all you do. It's just like a regular 8-strand braid where you're adding in beads. Now I do have a more detailed tutorial where I go through how to add beads into a Kumihimo braid. So I'm going to put a link to that in the description box below if you need to have a look at that. If you're not familiar with it, I would recommend looking at that first maybe. And also, just keep doing this, and when you reach the diamond duos, it's the same principle. You just keep adding them in the exact same way, making sure that they go underneath the cords there in the middle, and they'll naturally then sit properly in the braid, kind of sticking out to the side with the side of the open hole in the diamond duos. So just keep doing this until you used up all the beads. So then once you kept going here and used up all the beads on all the lengths of cord, then we need to replicate the other end what we did in the beginning there. So right after we finished with the beads, we just need to make another little section of braid with just the cord. So all you do is continue with the same braid, and then the cord will naturally singe in there in the middle and become just like the little section of braid on the other end, just so we have something to finish off the braid with. So do this for another 1 to 2 centimeters. So then now that I've finished that little section of braid there, what I want to do now is get this off the disc, but I want to just secure the end in place here so I can do it securely without the braid coming undone. So what I'm going to do is take 2 cords that are diagonally opposite each other, and I'm going to take from the pair that I was due to use next, so not the one that I just used. Then I just take these 2 cords here, bring them across the middle, tie a regular knot, and tighten that right down to the end of the braid. And then I take the 2 cords from the same pair that are diagonally opposite each other, tie a knot there, then I go to the other pair here and then just do the same thing. And this will then secure the end nicely. Still don't want to mess with it too much because obviously these are just single knots, so it can still come undone if you kind of mess about with it too much, but it will stay nice and securely while we're working with it, and also while we want to finish off the braids. And the last one there, and then what you can do just to make it a little bit extra secure is just tie one more knot on the very last one, so a double knot with the last 2 cords here, and then that holds it much more securely. So there we go, I can now take it off the disc, and here we then have the braid with all the diamond duos on here, sticking out on one side. So now that we then have the braid ready here, so this is one of them, what we want to do is make one more of the exact same thing. So we want 2 of this, so just the exact same pattern, do one more of that. And what you can also then go in and do is start finishing off some of the ends a little bit, not completely, but just to get it so we can actually start then incorporating them together. So I'm just going to get rid of my wire, and then on this end you can just put a bit of glue where the cords are coming out and then cut off the excess, just to make it a little bit less messy to work with. And what you also might find is that your braid is going to have a little bit of a twist to it, as you can see here. The diamond duos aren't laying completely straight next to each other, but that's only natural, so you can kind of work against that a little bit, so twist the braid in the other direction, and that'll help it a bit. But then also once we start adding the 2 pieces, so the 2 separate braids together, that'll also help just straighten it out and keep it straight, so don't worry too much about it. And then just make the other one like I said, and then once you've done that, we're then ready for the next step. So now that we have both braids ready here, you can see they're going to look like this. So we have these diamond duos in the braids kind of facing each other. Now what we need to do now is then start adding more diamond duos in and some seed beads, but also so we're able to bring the 2 braids together. So I'm going to start just with one and then put the other one to the side until I'm going to bring them together. And then what I've also done here is taking my needle and my thread and put my thread onto my needle. I've taken a decent length, maybe about a wingspan or so, just a decent length to be able to make sure we can get all the way through. And then I've tied just a regular knot on the end of it to be a stopper. And then the first thing I want to do is just get my braid and then just attach my thread to this so we can then start adding other things into it. And I want to start on one end. It doesn't really matter what end you start from because you're going to be going around anyway. But what I want to do is come in from the kind of outside of the braid, so the opposite side than where the diamond duos are, and I want to come up right next to the diamond duo, but on the inside, so not the outside of the end one there. So just like that. And then it's going to be stopping there. And then I just want to go through this a few times, so go through the braid a few times. So move over a little bit. And this is really just to secure the thread. So obviously we have a starting point, but also so we can continue from here on out, but have it be safe enough, not worry about the thread coming undone. And obviously also wearing it over time. It's going to be nice and secure. So just keep going back and forth a few times, and that'll be sufficient. Just pulling it through there. And then I'm just going to come through one last time, and basically the same thing that I did the first time I put it through, come up so I make sure it comes out right next to the diamond duo, but on the inside. And just pull it all the way through. Because what I then want to do is come through the diamond duo from the inside there, but actually go through the hole that's already in the braid. So the hole that has cord running through it already, and come out to the outside of the diamond duo. It's just to help hide the thread as much as possible, and also help make it more secure and just stronger and more durable. So through like that. And then before we can add anything else in, what we need to do is then go from that inner hole out to the outer hole of the same diamond duo, the one that hasn't been used yet. And we're just going to have some of the thread running along that part, the edge of the diamond duo, but you're not really going to notice the thread too much. So there we go. So now I have my thread in place and I'm ready to start adding in the rest of my beads. So what I'm going to do is use my diamond duos here, so the colour that I've chosen to use to add in. I want my diamonds to be the silver colour, going to stand out a bit more. And then also I have my seed beads, so these are the smaller ones. So we're going to start from here and start adding them into the braid. So the way that I'm going to do that is I'm just going to pick it up here. I'm going to work from this end all the way up towards the other end and start with that. And what we need to do is just make sure your diamond duos, if you can, that all the holes are cleared up, because sometimes they can have a bit of a blocked hole. But you can usually just kind of clear that out with your needle or something. I'm going to take one of my seed beads, so one of my 11-Os here, and then I'm going to grab one diamond duo, but you want to make sure you just grab it properly. So it's going to sit like this, so kind of the inside hole, but making sure that that kind of faceted side of the diamond duo is pointing in the same direction like that. So you don't want to grab it like this, so when you place it into the braid it's going to sit with a flat side up. You want to just make sure to grab the right side of it. So the diamond duo and then another seed bead, and then I'm going to jump straight over to the next diamond duo that's in the braid in the outer hole and just pull that all the way through like that. And you can see that's going to sit just there and bridge that gap between the diamond duos that's in the braid. And then we need to go to the next one, and again the exact same thing. Grab a seed bead, a diamond duo, and it can just help laying the diamond duo kind of out flat, how it needs to lay, so you know how to pick it up until you get used to it, so you're sure that it's going to sit correctly. And then another seed bead, and then jump to the next diamond duo that's already in the braid. So we're just building on this braid first, and it's then we're going to come back down the other side. That's when we're going to incorporate the other braid as well. We'll just this step first of all, so just keep doing this until you reach all the way to the other end. So now I reached all the way to the other end here until I've added on my last extra beads, so the last diamond duo and the seed beads, and I'm coming out from the last diamond duo in the braid, so the purple one, just the way I started out as well. So now what I want to do is go from this point and come around to the other side, where I'm then going to start incorporating the other braid. It's going to just slot in perfectly just like this. So how I'm going to do that, what you can also just see here by the way, is adding these in helps straighten the braid out quite a bit as well. So that's why adding these in and bring them together if your braid has come out a little bit twisted. But then that works like this. So now what I'm going to do is add a few of my seed beads, so I've just got 4 on here, and then I'm going to go over to the other braid, and just before you start just make sure it lays correctly, so you have the faceted side turning the same way as the rest here. I'm going to then jump straight through that diamond duo on this side, the open hole. So it always helps if you're a bit unsure, just lay them next to each other. Makes it much easier to figure out which one you have to go through, or how you have to pick up the diamond duos. So like that. And then we're basically, all the diamond duos that I just added on this first braid, it's going to be the same principle. It's going to be like we're adding them onto this one, except they're already in the first braid. So kind of just maybe pretend that they're not part of that braid. We're just adding them in as we go. But I'm going to add then one seed bead, and then as if I was adding around a super duo or a diamond duo, so many duos, I'm going to just go through that first one and through the open hole in it, as if I'm just adding it onto my needle. And then I'm going to add another seed bead. So same principle as before, as I was adding them in the first place. Bring that all the way down, so you can see it's going to slot like this, and then I'm going to go through the next diamond duo in the second braid here that I'm adding in now. So again, the open hole that's pointing outwards, and bring that all the way through. And then you can start to see that we're bringing them together. And what you want to make sure to do is, as we go in here, make sure you pull it nice and tight, because this is going to pull, because obviously we have the whole thread running through the other one as well. We need to make sure it's all nice and tight, like that. And then I'm going to add on another seed bead, go through the next diamond duo that's already in the other braid. You need to catch the outer hole there. Bring your needle through, and then you can just add on the other seed bead. Just make sure you always remember those seed beads. That's what I found sometimes could be the kind of hardest one to forget. Once you've added one seed bead and the diamond duo, could sometimes tend to forget the second seed bead. But obviously when you figure out, you can just go back and undo it and then put it in. But just like that. So you can see it's going to build up like this, and it's bringing the two sides together, the two braids, nicely. And then here you can see the first one, you get this nice diamond, also because using the two different colours of the diamond duos. So just keep going like that all the way to the other end with this braid as well. So now that I again made it all the way back to the other end here, then obviously the other end, if you remember, we added those 4 seed beads to kind of go from one side to the other. So I want to make sure I do the same thing down here. But at the same time, I'm going to then take the opportunity. I've only gone through all this once. I would like to go through it again just to make it a bit more durable and stronger. So what I'm going to do is add those 4 seed beads going from this side that are coming out from, so this very last diamond duo, and then I'm going to just go from that over to the equivalent one on the other side, so the one that we actually started out from at the very beginning. And what I want to do is then start going through all of this again. It's just what I prefer to do, because it's going to make sure to keep it much stronger, much more durable. So I'm just going to go through as many beads as I can in one go. So I'm going through a diamond duo here, a seed bead and a diamond duo. And obviously I have these 4 seed beads that I added. Before I completely pull it, I just want to leave that little loop so I can just pull the other end, the thread on the other side here, tighter. It'll be easier to do when you're doing it from the end. And then you want to pull it on the other side here. So you then have those seed beads that are bridging the gap between the two sides. So there we go. So I'm now done adding in all the beads that I want to add in. So like I said, all I want to do now is I'm going to go through all of this again. So just the exact same path that I went up the one side, down the other end here, and back up the other side again, right down to this end. So do that to make it more durable and last much longer. And then all you have to do after that is finish off the thread, and then we just have to finish off the ends of the actual braids themselves. So now I've gone around all this a few times here. So now what I want to do is finish off the thread and get rid of that. So I've ended up in this area where I finished the first time I went around. So what I'm just going to do is go through that diamond duo, so the outer hole, because I want to work my way back to the braid like that. And then I'm going to do it the same way that I started out. So I'm going to go from the outer hole to the inner hole. That's part of the braid. So we're just going to have thread lying right on the side of the diamond duo there. But again, it's not going to be too noticeable, especially this is on the inside of the diamond duo. So just go through that hole, pull your thread through. And this is just so we can get to the braid. So I'm going to go from that hole and then go straight through the braid. But it's just about securing the thread up as securely as possible as well, to make it obviously nice and durable, because you don't want the knots to come undone and the thread to come out, because that will obviously affect the whole piece. So again, I'm then going to go through the braid a few times, back and forth, moving a little bit to the side, and then moving a bit here, and going back again. So just do this a few times, and then when you've gone through a couple of times here, then you want to start tying a couple of knots. Also, let it blend in with the braid, and then you can cut off the excess of the thread when you tied those knots, and then it'll be nice and secure. So do that, get rid of the thread, and then we've gotten to the point where we need to finish off the ends here and completely finish the piece. So then to finish off the ends of the bracelet as well, so we can actually start wearing it, I'm going to be using these ribbon ends. So I already have a tutorial where I show how to use them, and that is on flat braids. That's what I use them for the most. Because here we have done round braids, but they're lying next to each other, which makes it more of a flat surface. So it would sit on the end like this instead. So you get both ends of the round braid inside of that, instead of just using a flat braid. So just do that. I'm going to put a link to that video in the description box below if you need to have a look at it. I'm also going to use some glue for extra security. So finish off the ends. I'm going to obviously then also attach my findings. So again, whatever class do you want to use, and once you've done that, then it'll be ready to wear. So this is then what the bracelet looks like now that I've finished off the ends and attached my clasps as well. And then it'll look a little something like that, and that's the back here. So obviously you have the flat side of the diamond duos on the back. And then there you go. So an interesting different way of using the diamond duos in your Kumihimo braids. And then also it will look a little something like this on your wrist. So give a really nice look there. So that's how you make this bracelet. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you very much for watching. Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make this Aztec wire woven bracelet. And it looks like this. So this is just the one that I've done here with these materials. You get this really nice kind of Aztec inspired design, using super doos to achieve it, and also seed beads adding in there. So this is just the materials that I've used, and it looks like this. We're just using one colour of super doos and then one colour of seed beads. What I think would be kind of fun to experiment with is maybe